Fellow viewers, the National Resistance Movement, which is Uganda's ruling political party, ran its most recent general election on the basis of economic transformation and economic empowerment of Ugandans. And perhaps to this effect, their decision to roll out the Parish Development Model as what I would call a magic bullet towards addressing Uganda's very pertinent issue, which is poverty, among us other very, dire sectors. Well, to enable us understand this conversation and to explore it much more, that, for example, we shall take stock of evaluating the past economic strategies that we have deployed as a country. How far have they gone? But also, what setbacks have we registered from those particular development programs? And does the Parish Development Model offer an alternative solution? Is it indeed the magic bullet that Ugandans are hoping for to alleviate them from poverty? We also know that our president declared this country a middle income status. Well, is that only a matter of declaration, or we shall have to evaluate indeed what the household incomes of Ugandans mean, and what is the economic situation in the country? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Youth Roundtable. We are back, and I'm joined by a panel of established, distinguished young people of this country, which I now take the honor to introduce to you, and in no particular order. Let me just read out their credentials. From Agago District, Mr. Odong Sam Ladwar, who is a youth leader from Agago. Many thanks for joining us, Sam. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
You can say hello to our viewers.
Hello, our viewers. My name is Odong Sam Ladwar. I'm a student at Makerere University. At the same time, a youth leader from Agago District, Lerapalo Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it raining in Agago?
Actually, there is sometimes rain, sometimes sunshine. The climate is changing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Atuhura Joseline, the Secretary for Female Affairs of the Youth Council of Kiryandongo, but also USAID and FPA Youth Champion. She joins us for the first time on the Youth Roundtable. Joseline, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the platform. Hello, everyone. My name is Joseline Atuhura, and I come from Kiryandongo District, a very unique district with about 87 tribes. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. 87.
We even surpassed the national ones.
Very interesting, very interesting. Yes, equally joining us for the first time is Mr. Kiibira Derick, an economics student at Mountains of the Moon University in Fortportal. Ndugu, many thanks for joining us. Karibu.
Thank you, Kidega, and I bring you greetings from the tourism seat of Fortportal and Mountains of the Moon University. I'm pleased to be here and discussing issues of national importance.
Wow, thank you very much. Yes, the last on the show is Mrs. Wembabazi Prossy, who is a third-year student of law at Nkumba University.
Hello, everyone. I'm so humbled to be in this place, and I'm a student from Nkumba University in my third year. I'm a legal scholar, and I'm much obliged to be in this place to share the good issues of our country, and I'll be glad to represent you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Joseline, let me just start with you.
Yes.
Just taking stock of Uganda's development strategies. We have had so many programs. The Youth Livelihood Program. There are so many that we have had. But I know that the Parish Development Model has been rolled out, and I think last week the Prime Minister officially sent, I think, the first couple of thousands of shillings to a District X. So what this means is that the program is now up and running. And the program, from what I gather, is that it has consolidated resources from other development programs like the Youth Livelihood Program and other, But what does this program offer for Ugandans? Is it the magic bullet? What do you make of it as a person?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kidega. About Parish Development Model, first I would render it a successful government program, basing on all other past government programs that didn't have very clear guidelines and that didn't really get to that downer person, to the person in the village. But when you look at Parish Development Model, it is focusing on subsistence households, and it's looking at a way of removing them from the subsistence farming method of, farming for food or eating or the president calls it in our local language, or call it a kida, working for the stomach. And then it's looking at a way of bringing them to the market economy. So parish development model has very many guidelines, but amongst the few, it included youth with 30%, women with 30%, people with disabilities, and the elderly, plus some others who were given 20%.
Yeah.
Well, if you're to look at parish development, PDM in its uniqueness, it went on and captured the parishes. Initially, all government programs have been run by districts, and mostly they start from national and then stop at the district.
Okay.
But now we are looking at parishes that were tasked to come up with circles. And while formulating these circles, they first came up with enterprise groups. And these enterprise groups were formed from the villages where we were tasked. I was among the people who were tasked to go at ward level and interact with the people from the village and see who are the people who are the poor, who are the poor of the poorest, or who are those who are really struggling. Yeah, so we came up with different enterprise groups per ward. There were 5. And then on parish level, it is from the 5 that we came up with 1 circle. Yeah. So last financial year, at the end of the financial year, government sent around 7 million. But that money was halted, like it was caveated. Couldn't withdraw it because it wasn't enough, having promised about 17 million per parish. And then this financial year, I think last week, that is when I read about Right Honorable Nabanja, when she sent about 80.92 billions to all parishes, meaning every parish is going to receive about 25 millions. Yeah. So 25 millions plus the 7, we are around 30 something. Now, this money can help these parishes develop, especially those ones who came up with lucrative circles or circles that will really impact. To add on parish development model, if you're to look at their pillars, we look at agricultural value chain development. These are the processes, like how, if I told you to dig maize, how are you going to store it? Then the value based, like if I told you to keep the maize, are you going to just keep it for food, or you're going to maybe add in some grinding and then sell for your maybe home consumption or for saving, you know? Yeah, so it also looks at other pillars like mindset change, very many things. Yeah. So about the parish development model, having included the local government employees on the committees as officials, I believe it is going to work out, because it is the local government that is really impacting on grassroots, not the central government. And agents, parish chiefs are really in touch with the committee members to see that the program has to work out.
Wow, thank you very much for that background. Sam, let me come to you. All the way from Kiryandongo Parish in Agago District. The parish development model, like she said, is more a bottom-up approach. Perhaps the program is focusing on supporting or assisting the lowest poor person in Uganda. From your parish and from where you're seated, what do you make of the parish development model? Just your thoughts about the program. Do you think it is something that is worth collapsing, for example, the youth livelihood program, or getting funds from maybe UWEP, getting funds from Emyoga and putting it in this program? Is it something worth trying out for us as a country? But also your general thoughts about PDM.
Yeah, thank you so much. With the parish development model, as stated, it has very beautiful guidelines. But now, ask me, I see parish development model as a pipe of dream, because recently what was published in the paper. A number of districts already swindled their money. It was already mismanaged. That's already a beginning of the downfall of PDM. Basically, with the guidelines, if all those were supposed to be followed and and really done critically, I believe that to some extent it could work better than any other. But on the other hand, again, for example, if I'm to say about NOSAF, NOSAF was rolled out and people are given livestock some, and you don't need to pay back any loan, but still I call it as it failed because it really didn't impact much on the lives of people. Because now I believe that Parish Development Model could have really worked out well if an initiative was done before, like financial literacy was very important because this we are really rolling out cash to the people. Training has been done maybe to a few individuals, but how about these groups down there? How much knowledge do they have on finance? That's the biggest challenge. They will get the money. Are they really going to utilize it well? Because I think that if really they could have first carried out a training, if government really wants something sustainable, there is need for a training. They really need to invest in training on several factors, like there is need to train this group on administration, not only administration on finance, even on their businesses. Now, we are assuming that these groups which has been formed, they already have ideas on whatever they are going to do. Normally, people have it in mind that what the government brings, there's a way they don't treat it well. They just go ahead to waste it, and it end up not helping them. They get the money. I remember during the previous one of the youth programs where many people had to run away because people were getting arrested just because of mismanagement of funds, because they lack the knowledge. But now, with the guidelines of PDM, it really involved everyone. Basically, you see the youth as 30%, the women as 30%, and then the disabled as 10%, the elderly 10%, then the general, which is the men, is included as 20%. That really targeted well, because if you see with the population, the youth and the women, they take much of the population if it's even combined. Now, women also have the advantage. You can be a woman at the same time you're a youth. Yeah, so you can really benefit from both. But now this challenge comes in a way whereby the young people in my district, I hear some other places people are complaining already. There are a lot of complaints. Youth leaders have been left out in some other places, whereby the youth leaders who were supposed to be part of this committee was to help in monitoring and evaluation of this program. But now, once the youth leaders have been left out, how can we really be sure that the youth are going to benefit? How they were really being put in the guidelines? Definitely, I see as if that it's a beautiful program, but now always our program comes in black and white, a very nice way, but now the implementation, we always have challenges in implementation.
All right.
Yeah, that is what I think.
Okay, thank you. Prossy, let me just hear your views as a student. What do you make of this Parish Development Model? Does it offer a solution? Because I know that sooner or later you'll be done with your LLB, and you'll probably be trying to find employment or trying to find a job or something like that. Do you think the Parish Development Model offers you hope for the future? But also, what are your opinions generally about the program?
My opinion about the program, Parish Development Model is a good idea to the youth and to Ugandans generally, because it's there for us all. But to some extent, I feel it is still lacking. Like when you go down there, some people don't know about it. The sensitization is still low, and when you look at the citizens of Uganda, most of them, they are biased about government initiatives. Like they feel that government is using them like to exploit them. Or I'll give an example. Recently, when they used to give out posho and beans to the people, they brought the poor quality in the first run. So when you tell someone that there's what they call parish development model, and our leaders in government, most of them, they have not gone deep down in the villages to tell these people about it, and then you come out as an individual like Prossy, and I don't have any status. I'll tell someone there is government development model, and it is there for you to develop your home, to put you somewhere in society. But then this person be like, you flash back to that scenario where they give them rotten beans, and then there is already bias, like they will not buy that idea. So as me, I'll find it like I'll be discouraged to push up with it, because our leaders, they are not even doing something to present to the society. Like the examples in the past have really created bias, and no one is willing to buy the idea. So it says what we just need sensitization down there, and we really need to tell these people how well they should use that money. Because yes, some people will receive the money, but they will use it for their own interests, and it's aiming at developing Uganda, because there is a goal for Uganda in 2040. So most people, they don't know how to invest, they don't know how to save, they really don't know how well to use this money. So in my own opinion, generally, I advise the government to engage their leaders and to first sensitize these people, then they introduce their program for it to be successful.
Wow. We have government advisors already on the panel. This is very interesting. Very interesting. Derick, let me just come to you. You've heard and of course I have follow-up questions for you. Don't think that I will let you go, scot free. I have follow-up questions for you guys.
It's okay.
But Derick, let me just hear you. What do you make of this program? Deep down in Fortportal, the student who is, struggling to go through school with the hope that when they graduate, they'll find a job out there, or they'll maybe open up a business that is sustainable. The parish development model is here, and they're saying that, establish circles at parish level, then access this money, then, do something with it. Does this offer a solution to Uganda's biggest problem, which is poverty and unemployment?
Uganda's problem, being a well-developed country, it is facing poverty, of course, and in economics, we studied that poverty takes a vicious cycle. The cycle is self-reinforcing and revolving, that from low income to low savings, low investment, and back to poverty. So the parish development model would be good that it comes to address the issue of incomes, low income, through providing cheap credit by that facility of the resolving fund. But then, I personally, if I'm to evaluate from a macroeconomic level, parish development model is being rolled out at a premature level. I do believe it should go back to the planning stage. It should be restructured and planned again. It is comprised of 7 pillars. And if it is to work well, these pillars should be systematic, that one pillar would lead to the other. For example, pillar number 7 is mindset change and the cross-cutting issues and community mobilization. But to be sincere, members in the community out there, they haven't been sensitized to a good level that would impact development. Here, we need to talk of financial literacy. There are some projects. For example, my home district is Kamwenge. and it is a refugee host community. So we had this program of the development response to displacement impact project under the office of the Prime Minister. And it assumes the same approach with the parish development model. But it's now 3 years since it was rolled out to the communities. And it is happening in other communities that host the refugees. But it hasn't done much. It hasn't impacted much on the people there out. People actually, they believe that this is free money. They still believe that it is free money, that Museveni likes them, and after every some period he has to bring these projects and appreciate them in some way. I really find some loopholes in the guidelines of the PDM. I'm interested in the revolving fund, and we need to talk of security for the credit they will be giving out. What are the recovery measures that after you've disbursed this money to the circles, how are you going to ensure that they are paying back and on time? People are there, and then we need to be strict with the business or what economic ventures they are going to invest in this money. And it is pillar 1 is emphasizing on production, agriculture, especially agricultural production, the value chain. Actually, it calls the people to identify two commodities that can do well in their district. But where I would need the PDM secretariat to replan is, fine, they are going to maybe engage in agriculture, but is it being backed up by the necessary research? Like, for example, in Kenya, Kenyans most of them are farmers, but they are doing farming scientifically. That before you venture into farming, you need to do the soil testing. Then you have the support of the meteorological authority, the weather forecasts, and what. People will get this money, invest in agriculture, but God forbid, then the droughts come, and then the accounting losses. Remember, we would need this money to get back. What happens? Such issues are not being addressed. So PDM is very good, but it needs to be restructured and replanned. And then before they can roll it out, they would do pilot studies in some districts. They choose regionally, choose like 3 districts in Western, then Eastern, in all the regions of Uganda. If it works out well, then they will roll it at a mass level, at a national level. But of now, I really don't think that it is going to work out.
Okay, thank you very much. Joseline, let me just come to you. Just speaking from what Derick and Prossy and of course Sam have said, they seem to suggest that because he says there's need for us to replan, get back to the drawing board and do a whole planning altogether. She says there's need for us to sensitize the community more. Just picking from their statements and comparing it with what you told us earlier, that you were actually involved, you were at the ward level, you were actually helping the community form all these groups. Are there statements and indictments to say that perhaps what you are doing wasn't not enough, in that people are not well sensitized and the program is being rolled out prematurely? So do you think that there was enough sensitization before government rolled out this program? Was it people-centric?
Okay, thank you so much. Whatever they've said, to some extent, is right. Because during the ward formation or the group formation, the enterprise group formation, we weren't the substantive people to collect data. Actually, it was you boss supposed to come on ground with data entrance and collect data. Because now a person like me who has not studied enough to know Kidega is poor or this one so and so is poor, how can I just look at someone and tell where they are living. I do not know their assets. I don't know what they do for a living, just because maybe they are living in a very funny home or they are looking bad or malnourished. I rule it out that they are poor. So your boss needed to come on board before everything, before coming up with enterprise groups and circles. Yeah, to some extent they are correct. But then, as government, we can't keep, coming up with programs and then phasing them out or failing to reinstate them. I think where we go wrong is when we have to come in and correct our mistakes. You get? So as of now, parish development model has not yet gone far. It has not yet reached like its seniority level where we can completely, lose hope. I believe we can correct some things now. And it's what is being done, because last week the ministry organized the sensitization, sensitization meeting in all districts. And this meeting was, it had committee members, the technocrats, and those who know parish development model well. They had to sit and teach them how everything has to be done. Unfortunately, for the data entrance, they're having a challenge. Some pulled out because of facilitation. They've not been facilitated. But I believe if we insist and support the program as young people, I know we can achieve. And there is this mindset we young people have that we are vulnerable. We categorize ourselves in some group and be like, yeah, government has to take us just like the way we are called special interest groups. But now Kidega, look, Uganda, regardless the funds and whatsoever, we have very many programs that have really tried and they failed to some extent. And there are reasons as to why they failed. Now, like for the youth livelihood program we talked about, that is revolving. Youth livelihood program came into place with the web. But if you're to see, since we have this mindset that, we are vulnerable, the government loves us so much, we shouldn't even pay back the money. It is what costed us. But when it comes to the women's side, they did pay back their money and they're still benefiting. So at some point, it starts with us, the youth.
The people.
Yes, let us stop complaining all the time and do what is needed of us. Let us do the necessary so that we can achieve and we can help the government. It shouldn't be all the time government. Let us also do something for the government. If it has decided to, help us, how are we going to pay back? We are not going to be youth forever. No. There is a generation that is going to come. But how shall we behave when we are in those positions of maybe women who weep? Are we going to still have these characters? Definitely no. So we should really support government programs. Yeah.
All right. And Derick, perhaps this rectifies what you're trying to say earlier on, that, what is the recovery approach? What is the recovery strategy? But why should government have to chase you around? You got the money, you used it. It is only self-befitting to acknowledge that, I have to pay it back. So do we really need a recovery strategy of how to follow up on this money? If indeed you are a genuine and honest person to know that I got money, I have to use it, invest it, then after I've made profit, I should repay it. But perhaps I will pick your thoughts later on. Sam, let me just come to you. Sentiments have come out to suggest that this is a political give back by the regime. And that the population down there is seeing it as, this is our reward for re-electing the NRM. As a youth leader, you interact with youth at the lowest level. What does the young person think of this program? Is it indeed a political appreciation by the regime, or indeed they see it as an empowerment vehicle, as a tool to get them out of poverty, to create jobs, to create enterprise, to create businesses? What is the young person thinking down there? What is their view? Is it a political reward, or do they see more in this program than just that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Moses. Down there, the youth is categorized. There are those who gone to school and those who haven't gone to school. And during campaigns, we know what always politicians do. they always give money to the youth, and what they always see, there is a way that the young people has gotten so much used to free things to an extent that, for example, I don't think very many of them can go for loans in the bank because they'll come for them, they'll fail to pay it back. Now, how they see PDM, actually, they really had much interest at the beginning. But I first stated the challenge with the PDM that has come in. For example, you see, a youth leader is at only the parish level, and there it stops. At the sub-county level, there is no youth leader involved. That's already cuts a channel of communication along the line of the youth leadership in case there are challenges. At the district, I don't see any youth leader in the guideline to be part of the committee. So that still cuts the gap. Actually, there's a lot of gap there. So at the national level, I don't understand really whether there are youth leaders involved in it. So I see like if they really want the youth to get so much involved, they should also follow our channel. The youth knows very well how to communicate with each other because we know that when they know well that if they get this money, it will empower them to some extent. But now the challenge comes in that, like what I first stated earlier on, financial literacy. Everyone knows that when I get something, I have to pay it back. That's why it's very important to have some little knowledge on something. Someone gets money, invest it. After investing the money, they fail to manage the business. You see, so the young people need to be trained on entrepreneurship. Those are the kind of things that will help them because they should know the consequences if you fail. They should understand the consequences when you fail to pay back something that has been lent to you. What made them got used? We had several programs back earlier on, which they give and then they don't ask for it. People had a saying, even songs were sung in the name of Nosap. You get and you don't give it back, right? So there's a way people grew up already used to a way that you get the money and you don't pay it back. And when they get the money, knowing that they are not going to pay it back, they'll go and spend it. Most of them, they don't get into the investment. But there are a few who really understand it. And it has helped them. Definitely, we know in all the communities, we have people of different categories. Yeah, that is...
Okay, thank you very much. Prossy, let me just hear from you. The world is discussing the fourth industrial revolution. When you look at BRICS, for example, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are countries that have ever since emerged, they've built their economic strength, they've built their financial muscles. But if you're to read the China economic model or even South Africa, I haven't come across a program like ours being implemented in any of those countries, whereby you give money to people and then they pay back. I don't know. Are we approaching our development from the right angle? Because what at least I know is that most countries that have developed have done so through policy. That you have good policies, you have good tax regimes, you have good incentives, you have, around policy. And then you create an enabling environment and then people can thrive in that. Economies can grow, businesses can grow. I don't know. Are we approaching this from the right point of view? Are we approaching our development from the right point of view? Or perhaps we should think bigger, like what other countries are doing, that let us be part of the fourth industrial revolution. Let us put money in developing technology. Let us have innovation hubs across the country. Let's encourage young people to develop softwares. Let's be part of this technology bandwagon. That is where the world is moving. Contrary to saying that, okay, guys, go to your parish, get money, and maybe grow a given cash crop, maybe grow cassava, or I don't know. How are we approaching our development as a country? Is it from a realistic point of view, or we're still doing it from the traditional ways, and the world has ever since grown and changed. So I don't know. What's your opinion?
My opinion, okay, in my opinion, and I find it that the government did something good to give people money, because we cannot compare ourselves to other people. We don't know what they incurred to be what they are. It starts with you, and me, in my opinion, I believe that when you feel like this is the right thing to do, you just do it. Though the government did not look at the precautions that would come out with what they are going to do or what they're trying to do. Because if the government first went on ground to see that we're giving these people money, but then are they going to do the right thing? Because to me, in my own view, I feel like this program was really good, because when you look at the circumstances, when they give you money and you're already told what to do and you know what you're supposed to do, and then you said in some other country they reduce on the taxes, the what and the what. So in our country, if they give us money and then they also involve the reduction in taxes, and then they supervise us on how we're using our money. And actually it's supervision that is really needed, because if you give me money and then you come on ground to supervise me, how well am I using this money? Trust me, it's a good initiative that we will develop, and the government will really gain what they really want to see, the Uganda they want to see tomorrow. But the problem comes in, they don't supervise, and then Uganda, we are, if they give us that idea, you say that the government does not give you money, but it gives you good environment where you can raise money from. Uganda, we have those people in villages, in parishes, because a parish in Uganda, it's the lowest level in the country. So when you go home, there are homes without even a radio, homes without a television, no power. Like those homes, they really need government to first give them money to get those items, then they listen to the government programs. So this idea was really nice, to give them money. Though the question is, are they going back to the ground to supervise them? Are our leaders themselves not, we have these leaders who are greedy on our money, by the way, because I'm sorry to the leaders here, I have one. These leaders, when they get money, they fight for the money themselves. They are not giving people the money. And government is all seated up. They're not coming to the ground to be like, to question this, but did you get the money on time? Actually, there is a problem of delay, that problem, because you give money to a farmer, and then you promise money at this time, and we have climate change. So you will not tell me that you're giving a farmer this amount of money at this time because we target the climate changes, right? So you delay. At that time, you're not giving that person that money on time, and this person will not raise crops, or maybe will not invest in his farm because you've delayed. So I would encourage the government to continue with this system, because it's helping us, and it's really good, because Uganda, we're not at that level of South Africa, we're not at that level of China, because our government, when you go down there, people are really badly off. So we really need an investment, and then we produce something good at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Amazing opinion. Derick, let me just speak to the economist in you. I still insist that for development to be sustainable, it must be policy-centered.
Yes.
Okay? You must have policies and legal regimes that enable people that I don't need even the government to give me money. What I need is government to put up good infrastructure, good roads, access to electricity, so that I can grow my crops and transport it swiftly. There are good roads, the basic minimum variables that a government can give to its people. Why do I say this? Because I want to explore your mind. Do you think our economic strategy as a country is inward-looking or outward-looking? Inward-looking in the sense that, do we protect the domestic investors? When we have people who are young people who are putting up businesses, does our regime, does our legal regime enable their businesses grow and thrive? Do we incentivize them? The Mukwanos of Uganda, is government doing enough to keep them afloat, to keep them in business? Vis-a-vis when you look at foreign investors who come into Uganda and are given all these tax incentives, or there is free land, or there is all this. But then even when they put up those businesses, they repatriate the money back to their countries. That could have been limited or controlled if there were strict tax regimes that, yes, you're coming to invest here, but 30% of your profits must be reinvested in the country. Or when you come, the policy is that you must employ 50% of Ugandan natives, such things, So even when they're investing in our country, we are benefiting out of the investment. So let's just examine, is our economic policy or strategy as a country inward looking? Do we favor the domestic investors, or do we instead favor the foreign direct investors who come into Uganda? Perhaps if you can examine that, then we can begin to think of a solution of how to address the poverty and unemployment and things like that.
The problem with the economy of this country and its development is that most of the times it falls a victim to politics.
Okay.
We've had this program of Bubu, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. It started way back in 2014, and it was introduced by government. But then government comes out and contradicts itself. It gets money, invests in Kira Motors to build buses. And then you find them advertising them that they are good buses, moreover, environment smart. At the same time, the very government, you find its ministries purchasing buses from outside the country, from Japan. So, what Buy Uganda, Build Uganda are you talking about? I actually see it as an issue of preaching water, then for you, you're taking milk. It's something that is really failing this country. Actually, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda would have helped spark off the industrialization and create jobs. But then we start up these industries, small industries, but we are still victims to competition from outside. From outside corporations, moreover, big corporations. Multinationals. Why? Government, the MDAs still go for what they prefer to purchase from outside countries, yet we have our very own here, but they are not given the support. Really, it can't work out.
So we are more outward looking than inward looking.
Yes.
So how would you propose? Because I think being in government, to me, could be one of the most difficult things, because you need the foreign direct investors, because they come with the resource muscle, they come with the financial muscle. You need them. But so to attract them to invest in your country, you must have favorable policies. You must have cheap labor. You must have, all these very good policies to attract them to come and invest. So how then does government attract foreign direct investors, which are good for the country's development, if not to subsidize, for example, the tax regime, or incentivize? Because I've listened to the president, and his argument sometime was that, you see, these companies, for them to come and invest in your country, like Coca-Cola and those big companies, one thing that they must be guaranteed of is cheap labor. And that is why he was against the minimum wage bill, that you cannot have a country where the workers are required to be paid a given minimum amount. You won't get foreign investors in your country. So his approach was that, we must incentivize, we must make investment attractive in Uganda. So assuming you're, a policy analyst or a government advisor, how do you strike the balance between needing foreign investment, but also, regulating it to the extent that you protect the domestic investors. How do you balance that?
We really need foreign investment in this country, but if the country is to develop, there should be a balance between foreign investment and this local investment. Give what you give to the foreign investors, give it also to our indigenous investors, the natives. Why should you sideline them? These foreign investors come and they are given these tax holidays and whatever. But it's unfortunate that our local investors, the Ugandans who perhaps can raise the capital, they are not given the tax holidays, and it is really hurting and a disincentive to investment, that they are not motivated in any way. And actually, like I talked in the first, that it falls victim to politics. Some local potential investors think that these multinational companies which come here, they are to be owned by what? By big men in the government. They actually consider it a thing of the what? Of the government top brass. And they've tried to really avoid it.
All right, thank you. Amazing opinion. Joseline, as we take a short commercial break, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, very famous Pan-Africanist, one time had this to say, and if I may quote, that for sustainable development to happen, it must be people-centric. The people must be involved. When you look at Uganda and our several attempts to maybe develop the economy, when you draw the comparison, and to this I'll just quote what you said earlier on, that the PDM is now going to the lower person, vis-a-vis the likes of Emyoga that were maybe city-based or urban-based. Now PDM is going lower to the people. So can we then say with confidence that because the PDM is going to the lowest level, then therefore, one, it is going to involve more Ugandans, and therefore development will be more people-centric, and therefore it will be sustainable development? Can we compare PDM with the words of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and say that, wow, we're on the right track? Because it is people-centric, it will be sustainable, and it will be, something that the people own and are a part of.
Oh, well, Kidega, I would like to first take you back to the rising face of Uganda.
Okay.
The Uganda that was known for coffee, cotton, generally production.
Yeah.
And now this is Parish Development Model that is trying to take us back to our root. We very well know that agriculture has been the backbone of this country, but to some extent, we've been taken up by money and the finances, that we are trying to walk away or move away from the agriculture bit of it being the backbone. So from Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was right, because then everyone was actively involved in agriculture, production, and that's what they could do best. I'm happy to say that for Parish Development Model, if you're to really critically analyze the pillars, it brings in everything. The infrastructure bit of it, the financial inclusion where we bring in the financial literacy. It really talks about, it's broad if you're to interest yourself in it. And if we really implement it correctly, I believe we can be the next China's or South Africa. Yeah, we can strive and make it.
Okay. I think to me it remains a big if, that if indeed the parish development model is well managed, the resources are utilized well, then maybe we can hope that this could be the silver bullet to our economic transformation as a country. Well, that and much more after this short commercial break. See you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Yes, we'll be back to the Youth Roundtable, and thank you for keeping it with us. Well, let's just dive straight to the chase. Sam, let me just begin with you. Some people have argued and said that because of the difference in the levels of development of the different sub-regions of this country, that, for example, when you read the UBOS statistics of last year, they did indicate that sub-regions like Acholi, Busoga, Bukedi are among the poorest ranking sub-regions in the country. The Parish Development Model has taken a uniform approach that every parish will receive a given amount of money. It has not put into consideration the difference in the levels of development in the different sub-regions. Do you think that it should have been much more prudent to say that because Busoga is much more poor than maybe Teso, therefore the parishes in Busoga will get 30 million, whereas the ones in Teso will get maybe 17 million, something like that? So do you think that there should have been affirmative action in considering the different levels of development in the country, and therefore that affirmative action should have been seen and witnessed in the amount of money being sent to the different parishes in the sub-region? So do you think that there was need for affirmative action in this program?
Thank you so much. If you read through the guidelines of the PDM, there's some part that talks about equity. But then, if you see what is happening on the ground, the equity is not being exercised. For example, if you take a parish, let me say maybe like from Kiryandongo District, and you take a parish from Kampala, and you see the population, and you see the development, that's a lot of difference. Definitely, if the government sees elevating all regions to develop to an equal level, which means definitely a more poorer region should really receive much funding than that one which is already a little developed. That one also needs consideration of the population. You see the population of an area. Some other parishes, okay, they are wide, but the population is low. Others are small, but the population is high. Now, there's another way that we also need to consider this. If really we see only the funding bit of it, how about the other aspects of PDM, like schools? If you go to an urban area, they have many schools in one parish. If you go to the village, there's some other villages that, some other parishes without schools. How about the healthcare system? Those are all the things that the PDM is seeing to elevate, which means if you're really trying to push education to go to equal level with someone deep down in the village or hub country compared to someone maybe in Barara or Mbale or Kampala, definitely we have to see also how to elevate those other schools to really develop to a certain level that gives equal competition, whereby all the pupils or all the students coming from those areas, they can easily compete equally to join tertiary institutions. Then to some extent the job market also becomes a fair, competitive venture for everyone. Now, when really this financing is given equally, if you see those ones who manage there as well, they will develop more than the others. But at the same time, even if all of them doesn't manage well, still the other one which is higher will remain higher, and this community which is lower has always remained lower. The government should also consider the number of factors that are that really should be seen. For example, northern Uganda, they have been in the war for good years. That one should not be used as a cry, but it has deteriorated development for very many years, for over 30 years in that region. If you are to compare regions like Karamoja has been so low, whereby the government should consider such places as interest areas also, so that they can be elevated. Definitely, we can see that. If we see, like, when we see industrialization, we have areas like Jinja, we have Kampala, they have many industries. But if you go up countries, you don't see them. You don't see them at all. So that one still, because PDM is considering all those. So there is really a lot that the government has really to consider in the areas whereby there is high poverty. For example, actually, sub-region, UBOS came up with the statistics that it was a poorest region in the country. The previous one, it was another region. How is the government looking at elevating those people so that the country moves at par? Yes, thank you.
Wow, thank you. Prossy, just sticking on the issue of affirmative action, Sam tries to bring in an aspect of the historical factors, okay? That because, for example, actually sub-region had the 20 years of the LRA, their development was, impeded, rather. So what that means is that perhaps there's need for affirmative action. And I think there are certain legitimate arguments that he's trying to make, because historically thinking, as a law student, you know that Karamoja during the colonial days was actually a detention center. It was a deportation center. That if what you were doing was counter-regime, you are deported to Karamoja. And that is when the famous narrative of we shall not wait for Karamoja to develop came up. So do you think that there are certain historical factors that have contributed towards making certain sub-regions poorer than the others? And if you agree with that argument, then do you think that government programs like the Parish Development Model should have an affirmative action lens so that we can, pull those that are less privileged, those whose development was impeded by historical factors, and bring them to par, as Sam is trying to say? So just your own thinking about the affirmative action.
Actually, your question is a bit bulky, and I would prefer we share it with my colleagues. Like,
okay,
we have different ideas, and I think we all have ideas on the history of Uganda. So, I think the history could be an idea about it. Like, it could be contributing, but in the Uganda today, history doesn't matter. The history of Uganda,
really?
it doesn't weigh that much on the development of the area.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would I say that it doesn't weigh? Because I'm seeing the government of Uganda, it's at least trying to engage in each and every region in this. And in my own opinion, we shouldn't be centering on the history, because if Uganda really centered on the history, then some regions wouldn't be benefiting out of it. It would, because our government, it's from, I'm not trying to be tribalistic or right, but then it would be developing maybe the western part if you really mattered on the history. So at least, and I would like to engage my colleague to discuss more about the history.
All right, thank you. Because what Sam is trying to say is that programs like NUSAF, which is Northern Uganda Social Development Fund, were brought up as an affirmative action to ensure that the sub-region, because of its, past history, is elevated and empowered financially. And I think that history, in my own opinion, is actually fundamentally very important, because for you to be able to appreciate your present and project your future, you must understand where you're going, where you're coming from, rather. So I think to me, history is important. But maybe Derick has an opinion. Derick, as an economist, okay?
Yes.
How should a regime, how should a government approach development? Is there a need for affirmative action? Even when you're looking at development, yes, we are all Ugandans, but are there certain parts of the country that are much more less developed than others? And therefore, when you're reading out government empowerment programs, the financial aspect should indicate the need for affirmative action. Perhaps she didn't tell you, but Article 33 of the Constitution of Uganda provides that the government must do what it has to do to address the disparity, to address inequality in its people. So through its programming, it should be able to conform with Article 33. So do you think that the PDM should have had a much more critical affirmative lens to ensure that the less developed sub-regions are brought to par with everyone else?
I do acknowledge that we do have regional imbalances in development in this country. And like I said in the first place, that PDM is being rolled out prematurely. It would need to go back to the planning stage and take into account such issues, because you can't put Karamoja on the same weighing scale with Western Uganda. It would be a disservice to our brothers and sisters out there. And then again, talking of that issue, pillar number 1 of the PDM of supporting the agricultural value chain. As an economist, I'm interested in seeing these people who get the money really go into production. As you are all aware, we are experiencing some creeping inflation in the economy. And what happens when you disburse this money into the economy and it is not backed up by the necessary production? It would automatically spark up inflation. So what measures is PDM putting in place to ensure that once people get this money, they put it into production, real production, thereby ensuring that we don't experience what? Inflation. Already we are not doing well. So when you have this money, as much as it is into saturation and it is not being backed up by production to have the commodities on market, it would really be a disservice to our economy.
All right, thank you. Joseline, just slightly beyond the PDM, let's discuss the economy as a general. Uganda anticipates that by 2025, the first barrel of oil shall leave our ground. As we speak right now, there is a 4,000-kilometer long pipeline that's supposed to begin from Bunyoro all the way to Tanga in Tanzania. And perhaps the anticipated profit, the anticipated financial gain that we hope to get from this project is quite enormous, given that we are 15% beneficiaries of the profits, something like that.
Yeah.
But do you think that perhaps we shouldn't focus too much on PDM and put all our hopes in it, but also perhaps try to broaden our alternatives and options and look at, for example, oil as the biggest stepping stone for our economy? Because, I don't know, I haven't seen countries that have developed enormously through producing maybe cash crops. Oh, yes, they have, but I think that you must go for the bigger resources, like something like oil, something like, So do you think that, for example, the ECOP offers a very big economic opportunity for this country?
Yeah, At least we know of very many countries that have oil and have developed at a very rapid stage. If you're to look at development currently, it is only sided. That is Munyoro. Has oil benefited you as of yet in North?
No, but you see, perhaps the benefits from the oil, when we sell this oil, the benefits will come to the national treasury. And when they come to the national treasury, then they can be used to develop roads, they can be used to develop.
Yeah,
Of course, the host community will, I mean, naturally will benefit more
from
because,
jobs and everything.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should deviate or we should walk away from what we've been doing before. We are now talking about PDM, but there are very many other programs that we've not focused on because there is a new one that is called PDM. So it is the same thing as the oil. Yeah, the oil is there, but we can still do away without, we can still coexist with the oil. Yeah,
So
that's what I think.
What would you tell European Union, who is saying
European Union.
who is saying that
it should focus on their issues. They have a lot to discuss. This is our oil. It is ours, and they should.
They're saying that the issues like climate change.
Why are they seeing climate change now? This is Africa. We know how we do our things. How about their climate, the other side? It is worse. We are doing way better when it comes to climate. Yeah.
Okay, Sam, let me just hear you. You, as a young emerging leader, hopefully one day you'll get elected to parliament and have the opportunity to make legislation and make laws. What do you make of, for example, the European Union saying that Uganda should delay the extraction of oil by another 1 year if they don't address certain issues around maybe human rights, compensation of people who are displaced from the host communities, and things like that? Do you think that the issue of climate change should be considered at a time when Uganda is trying to empower, when it's trying to exploit its most valuable resource? Do you think issues like climate change should even be looked at, or should focus on, let's get this oil out of the ground, let us refine this oil, let us process it, let us make big money out of this money, let's empower Ugandans? What angle do we take regarding this particular oil? Because we're discussing the economy of the country, development in general. And natural resources have demonstrated to play a critical role towards any country's development. So are the European Union Parliament, or whatever they call themselves, are they right to try and say that, you know, first address issues like climate change, issues like human rights before you begin to exploit your oil? What do you make of that? Is it counter-development for Uganda, or it is pro-development?
Yeah, thank you so much. I wondered why European Union came at a time where oil is almost coming out. The process for the extraction of oil has been there for over years. However much Uganda as a country has its challenges, if you are to see how many countries are extracting oil in the whole world, there are very many countries, very many. And is it only the extraction of oil from Uganda that will affect the climate? We should really also see that, because when oil gets out, it will fund our budget, and there is a lot that will come in for us. But now, to some extent, also you see in our country how much money is always embezzled that could have funded some part of the budget. If you are to sum up the amount of money embezzled at the end of the financial year, it could have done a lot more. So me as an individual, however much I would love our country to get this oil out, I don't see the benefit really coming so much to the country, unless we go ahead to address corruption where we have tried. I don't know which any other means. A friend once told me that the only way that we can address corruption in Uganda is they first say, this is the end of corruption. The next person who will participate in it should be killed. And that is the only way we can address corruption in Uganda. Because if 2-3 people goes down as a result of corruption, then definitely we shall learn.
But those people have a right to fair hearing. They have a right to life.
Exactly.
That is provided to them by the Constitution.
Exactly.
So how do you just shoot them and kill them? Shouldn't they go through a fair trial process? Shouldn't they be taken to the right procedures? Take them to court, let them be tried, and then if they are found to be corrupt, the Penal Code Act actually describes the penalty. They should be sentenced to maybe imprisonment. So why do you want to take the law into your hands?
You know, when you're thinking aloud, you think of the best solution. Because we have tried, the law has been there, they have taken several to court and they come out clean. The money, the money that they corrupted, they embezzled, has it ever been repatriated to the pool that's supposed to help? You don't get to listen about it now. Everything dies there, nothing comes out now. Basically, if you go to the oil will really help a lot the country. As the EU, they should really, I don't really understand. We have African Union. We have African Union whereby the EU should wait something that takes international interest, but matters of our national interest. I think we have a government that can handle it, and we have several means of taking things. When the people who are not compensated, they have channels. They have channels. Then definitely we have to be diligent and compensate these people where it's necessary. Then if there is need for precautions to be taken, it can be taken, but not to delay. Now, taking in the interest of delaying the extraction of oil, I fail to understand where their interest is. Because definitely, they should have put it very clearly that Uganda, if you want to extract your oil, you should do this and this and this and this. But at the same time, Uganda is a country, it's a republic of its own. We are independent. We really have what to decide for. We know what is good for us. Ever much we have our challenges. We shouldn't use the political differences to pull down development in the country. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, wow, amazing. Prossy, let me just pick up from where you stopped. The issue of international law and relations and the aspect of sovereignty that you have just concluded with. Do you think that, for example, the European Union sitting in, I don't know, whatever they sat and saying that Uganda, you must delay your development if you don't address some of these issues, A, B, C, D. But let me remind you that Uganda is a signatory to so many of these laws. We signed so many of these laws on human rights. We ratified so many laws on climate and, environment and things like that. So when the European Union says that, hey, Uganda, you actually ratified these laws on human rights, your sovereign government ratified the laws on environment protection and things like that. So are they then right to say that if you ratified these laws, then why are you going against them? Okay, so do you think that the sovereignty of the country is being undermined when you draw in your international relations legal knowledge, but also the idea of sovereignty? Do you think that European Union saying that trying to meddle into the domestic affairs of Uganda, does it undermine our sovereignty as a country? But also, is Uganda, would we be accused of playing double standards if we are ratified to given international laws, but then we are doing otherwise? Maybe you could argue that international laws are weak and soft, and that the domestic laws end up overpowering them. But then why should we ratify them as a country if we know that we will not follow them? So where is the gray area? Just drawing into your legal mind.
Okay. Uganda is in a dilemma, like that's what I can say,
Okay.
because it is recognized as a state. It fulfills all the requirements of a statehood and the statehood to fulfill them all. Then I really wonder, why would the EU come and question Uganda on how it should run its own business? I think the EU is just popping its nose into Uganda. That's how briefly I can say.
No, but you see, Total, which is a French company, France is part of the European Union. Total is funding 63% of the crude oil pipeline. So they're giving you the money. So you cannot say that they're just popping their nose in your business. They're giving you the money. They're funding the process. 63%. So it is their tax, it is their money, okay, money from their company that is being used to finance your development. So do they then have a right to poke their nose? Just use your words.
Oh, okay. Okay, to some extent, they do have the right because Uganda should account for whatever they are doing, okay? They should account for the money. But to a larger extent, Uganda has all the rights on their oil because we are independent and we really have to do things according to the work plan of our country. Because you not come out and then you just direct your orders onto us on a short notice because for you are interested in the climate change, but you are not there when this thing was vetted. You don't know the ground. You are not there to support us from the roots. You just came on the branches and you really want to implement your laws at the end of the day because you have your personal interest in it. So, in my own opinion, I believe Uganda should follow its work plan, though it should give accountability to the UN, to the EU, to show that they are really working with them because they had to rectify the laws and to agree on some treaties. So, in my opinion, I think Uganda should be left to follow its own work plan. Because it's at the end of the day it is developing and it's independent. So why would the EU question Uganda and how they are using their materials?
But they are giving you money. 65%.
Yeah, the 65%. In my judgment, I said they will account for it because there is a law that they had to sign. It just didn't come out of the blue that they're giving out the money. There are some regulations they had to follow before they were given that amount.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Derick, let me just come to you and just picking up from where she has ended. We are arguing that we are independent, we are sovereign, okay? Good argument, which appeals to international law and all those things. But I think independence goes beyond just the mere word. It is beyond the rhetoric. You cannot claim independence if you are running to the West to ask for money. You cannot say that, oh, guys, we are independent, therefore EU should not meddle into our affairs. But it is the company that is funding your development. So does the argument of independence, of sovereignty suffice in a situation where the person you're trying to divorce from having a say in your affairs is actually your biggest funder of the economic development project that you are talking about? So does this predicament we find ourselves in as a country speak to the bigger picture that independence is not just about the rhetoric, but it's about the financial independence of a country?
I must say, as Uganda, we are not yet financially independent. We are still dependent in a way that we still do receive foreign aid from the West. The West being the United States and, of course, the European Union. So, in any way, they are our big brothers. And I do believe that they didn't just wake up to talk bad about the Equal project minus realizing some issues which were going bad. Because these are developed countries. They're in the first world while we are in the third world. They've been where we want to get. Some of them have been able to drill the petroleum. So they have that experience, I must say, and they know what it takes and the eventualities of what comes out when some issues don't go well. So when they say that first wait and work on these issues, I think it's not in bad spirit. We are living in a world where we are really facing climate action. Climate change is real. The UN didn't come up with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals just for fun. No, these are real issues that need to be addressed. And if the EU is saying that Uganda first to work on these issues, then in good faith, let us, however much I know the NEMA did the environmental impact assessment
Yes, report.
yeah. But if the EU is pointing on some issues, let us first address those issues. And me personally, I'm not much interested in these fossil fuels in that the world is planning to go green. We are going away from fossil fuels and we're interested in renewable energy. Renewable energy. Actually, some economies which were surviving on petroleum have had to restructure their economies, like the UAE. UAE now, much of their economy is hinged on tourism. It is a desert country, but they've planned it well that tourism now is on top of petroleum. Why? They are looking into the future. Where are we getting? Not many more years from now.
But USA, in fact, reached out to the Gulf countries and asked them to produce more oil. During when the Russia-Ukraine war had just started and there was insufficient supply of oil across the globe, USA reached out to the Gulf countries and said, please produce more oil.
Of course, that is happening because we are having a crisis. It's actually an international supply chain disruption caused by the war in Ukraine. But short of that, I'm telling you, the world is heading for renewable energy. We want to do away with fossil fuels. And Uganda should do as well plan for the better. We shouldn't be looking at petroleum as the what? As the thing to save us. We should plan beyond. Yes.
Joseline, just listening to what Derick is saying, I don't know what you think, but what I know is that there are 9,000 oil and gas production licensed companies in the USA. 9,000. Not so long ago, about 2 months ago, Germany issued 53 more licensing companies to produce and extract oil, including the plan to drill in, I think, Alaska and the Arctic Oceans, the Arctic Sea. So these guys are continuing to actually exploit their resources. But Derick here is saying that, hey, hold up, climate change is here, and we are moving towards renewable energies like wind, solar. We are moving towards electric vehicles, and therefore, our oil might not be so important. Where is the lacuna? How do you go about with this?
Okay.
But do you also agree with him that we should abandon fossil fuels? That we have just discovered, okay, we discovered it a long time, but that we are about to now get off the ground. And it's so much hope, so much job opportunities are, anticipated and all these things. And they're saying, hey guys, there's climate change.
Okay, well, Ndugu Kidega, you see, what he has been talking about is very pertinent. Climate change is something we should really interest ourselves in. That is really costing the entire continent or even the entire world.
The world, yeah.
Yes. So, renewable energy to me is the way to go. And what has failed us as Africans, we've really deviated so much from our own values, like what we can do best, and we are trying to copy what other countries, continents, USA, Europe are doing. If at all we came up with our own initiatives as Africa, that is to say the African Union coming together with merging all the African countries, we would do better. Take a instance. You see what happened here in Kenya. When Kenya came up with M-Pesa, everyone got to know the idea of sending money through what? And it spread. Rwanda, that came up with drones to deliver medicine to hospitals because it is hilly, and everyone started copying up that. I believe if Africans came up with their own initiative of renewable energy, as long as it is not going to affect climate in any way and it's going to benefit everyone, we would really take it up.
But
why
Joseline,
would we so much focus on the money bit, costing our own people?
But Joseline, people have argued that Africa contributes less than 10%.
It's
the
a
global
narrative.
emissions.
It's
a
a
fact.
narrative.
It's a fact.
You see, there is this narrative of Africa being known of HIV, disease, poverty, the Africa of, not developing. There is nothing like good known of Africa. But I believe it starts with the African continent, the African countries. If we start, like, for example, they came up with this disaster preparedness, that any country that maybe gets anything to do with climate or anything, that any country that is hit by disaster, they will get that money contributed by the African countries and go for maybe a rescue, not to wait for money from where? From other continents or Europe or USA, whatsoever. Isn't that a good idea for Africa? So I think we as Africans, we have to do our own thing as Africans, not waiting for the Europeans for what to come up with something and then we all copy and paste.
Ladwar, I'm finding an issue because I am all, like, my opinion is all of exploiting our natural resources. I have reservations for the argument of climate change. Why? Because the people who are fronting the argument of climate change have just mentioned to you, USA has 9,000 oil and gas licensed production companies. About 2 months ago, Germany licensed 53 companies to produce oil, including a drilling that is about to begin in Alaska and around the Arctic Sea. There are people who are saying, don't exploit your natural resources. Are they being hypocritical? Are they afraid of an African development? Because when Africa develops, then we shall have our own resources. Then we won't have to go to the World Bank or to IMF to get money. Therefore, our independence question could be answered. Are they afraid of that? And therefore, they are fronting the argument of, hey guys, climate change, climate change. And people like Derick and Joseline now seem to agree that climate change is here and therefore we should not exploit our natural resources. Do you think this is a hypocritical argument by the West to curtail Africa's development because our development poses a threat to them?
Yeah, thank you so much. When you say, are the West afraid of our development? I think that is the biggest threat to them as Africans. Why would I say this? If you have to see climate change is so broad. Pollution alone, pollution produced from a certain location can travel thousands of miles to affect another location. So why do we zero it down that how the extraction of the oil alone from Uganda will affect us? Now, if you are to go back a little about the history, most of the countries that are developed, they extracted oil, and that was a very good breakthrough for them. Now, like when you see agriculture doesn't bring really, like, it is not something really so much in the market, because oil, we cannot do without oil at the moment. However much research is trying to go on to see so that we get away from oil, but at the moment, leave alone gas and fuel, there is a lot of raw material that comes from oil. If we look around the room alone, a number of things that comes from oil. What we addressed, a number of things that comes from oil. The lotion that we put comes from oil. So very many things. So I see, like,
so it's a whole ecosystem.
Exactly. Oil is it's part of the ecosystem. So the only thing that could come in, we should see how to manage it, because the climate change, has to be considered by everyone, not only Uganda as a country or China or USA. Everyone is involved in this mitigation and trying to adapt and live with the coming change that is really getting onto the planet. Because if you are to see, once Uganda gets the oil and it uses in a very good way, they will produce raw materials, importation gets down, then definitely trade within the African countries, definitely borrowing money, getting grants from other European countries gets lower. So when we are no longer getting money from other countries, then definitely the independent bit of it comes in. The stricken part of, yes, they say grants, and definitely, I'm very sure there are conditions that comes with it. It doesn't just come like that. So I think when oil comes in, definitely, if put into good use, a good benefit will come for the country.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Prossy, just as we conclude this show, is Uganda ready for the conversation of what Derick is saying, renewable energy, electric cars? If these cars were produced in the market, can our poor Ugandans afford to buy an electric car? Are we ready for that part of life? Or we should exploit our resources for now, get our fuel out, sell it to the world, make money, build our economy, create jobs? You know?
Uganda, we have different classes. And when I look at Uganda today, there's a class that can afford buying and there's a class that cannot afford. So the center of it is this class that can afford buying, will it adjust to these people? Like, will Uganda extend? Actually, I'll pose a question to him. On the look of things, will Uganda adjust to these people, these other low class earners, to be part, to yield from these services that when Uganda fails to sell off the oil, or it continues producing within, and do you see any future in Uganda? Like tomorrow, even the low income earners, because the theme was to say that how is Uganda going to achieve out of it at the end of the day, out of this program at the end of the day. In your own view, do you say that everyone will get anything? Like Uganda will at the end of the day develop, and everyone by 2040, because that's the goal, 2040, Uganda should be a developed country. Do you say, in your own opinion, do you say that at the end of the day, everyone in Uganda will attain that high class that it is centering on currently?
All right, so Derick, as we wrap up this conversation, I'll give each and every one of you 30 seconds to give us your last words. But Derick, because you have a question, I'll give you 1 minute. So 1 minute for you, 30 seconds for the rest of us. So you respond to that and give us your parting shots on the show.
I didn't get the question clearly, but talking of ECOP, my stand was let Uganda first address the issues that EU is pointing at. Reason being, climate change is what is real. I'm not against Uganda exploiting its petroleum for development, but let it exploit it the right way. Let it first address what the issues which the European Union deems to be against or contradicting the development, because development should be sustainable. We need to leave Uganda better than the way we found it. If we are going to develop, then again climate brings its negative effects, then that won't be development. So I would request the government to tackle those problems and get everything right, then it can proceed to exploit the petroleum.
Yes, Joseline, your last words.
Yes, Me, I think, I'm just going to continue from where he has stopped. Uganda should do what it can do best. Let it focus. If it's production, let it produce, reduce on taxes, and also create market for its outputs. That is what I can say.
Oh, amazing. Yes, Ladwar.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely our country has a lot of resources, and I would agree that they should do whatever it takes so that we develop, because development is all about utilizing what you have. You have the human resource and all those. And wrapping up with the PDM part of it, I would also encourage the government to enhance security. For example, my district where I come from, Agago, there is cattle rustling and people are scared to go farming. Many have been killed. So definitely that is still a setback of part of the development, because someone could have gotten money to inject into agriculture and cannot go to the garden because of fear of being battered in the garden. So generally, our country is trying. Ever much our biggest problem is corruption. I wish there's a solution to corruption. I'm very sure this country could have been somewhere already. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Prossy, your last words.
My last words first talk about the oil issue. Uganda should exhaust all the items needed for independence in order to attain something out of it. Then back to the PDM. Uganda should sensitize its members about it and should supervise on how well the money is done, and to even tell the people tomorrow the benefits out of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That by all means brings us to the last and the end of this conversation. I can't thank enough our panelists. Thank you for spending the time to be on the Youth Roundtable. Thank you, Comrade Prossy, Comrade Sam Ladwar, Comrade Joseline, and Comrade Derick. Many thanks for spending the time to be on the Youth Roundtable. Of course, to our production team, thank you for ensuring that our viewers get this show right on time. Well, this is the last of the list from me, and hope to see you next week, same time, same place. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.